Well, I'm Ariel from La Bitcoineta. Fernando will come later. He doesn't usually speak anyways. So we do a tour around Europe. We do meetups, conferences, and such. And we teach about Bitcoin. And in this case, we also tell the story of Argentina because we are both from Argentina. And Argentina has a really interesting story of monetary disaster, right?
Yeah, I think
So I want to tell it a bit fast so we can answer questions. And this also explains why Argentines got Bitcoin really early. The very earliest Bitcoiners from Argentina are 2011, 2012. But by 2013, we started assembling and doing the first Bitcoin conference of Latin America. And that conference has been running ever since, non-stop, except for the pandemic. We did remote. And also this community of Argentina developed the concept of Bitcoinetas. So we did the first one in 2018. By 2014, actually, we were like renting cars and driving ourselves. So we would take a car, go to small cities inside of the country, give talks, come back. But by 2018, we did the first one. And we're going to show you in my cell phone the first Bitcoineta, which is this one. It's a Sprinter van, right? And in 2021, they tried to drive this all the way to El Salvador, from Buenos Aires to El Salvador. It wasn't possible, they couldn't make it. So the Argentine community bought this Volkswagen bus and they give it as a gift to El Sonte. And 1 year later, in 2022, the guys from El Sonte purchased this Toyota Land Cruiser, and they did this one. It has horns, and this is in South Africa. So ours is number 4. Number 5 is missing right now. It's from Ghana. And number 6 is this Citroen in Denmark. Right?
should be in France.
Yeah, it should be in France. Yes. Well, who knows? Perhaps next year we can arrange, and some of you can take the Bitcoineta and drive through France. Because yes, we have this thing about not speaking French. So yeah. Well, I'm gonna give a brief history of Argentina. I guess you most likely know some about it. Some countries they don't know anything. So I have to locate it on the map, right at the south of South America. And so let's go into the monetary history. So this country at first had, during this period, 1826, 1881, sort of like monetary freedom or diversity. Like we use money from Spain, money from private banks, money from the provinces. So that ended when we did the first national currency, and it was the longest running one, right? It almost lost 90 years. For some periods, this had a gold backing, so we can exchange it for gold, sometimes not, depending on the year. And the real disaster started in 1970. Right about the same time the dollar went off the gold standard. So we had to take this one and remove 2 zeros out of this one. So 100 peso moneda nacional became one of these, peso ley, right? I have it here, so I will pass it around for you to see, right? Hold on. 1,000 pesos ley, right? So then we had a Falklands War, Malvinas with the British, and military governments. So this ended in hyperinflation. So this bill, and you got there, we got up to 1 million peso notes, right? We were millionaires. And in 83, we replaced it with the next one. I want to show it here first. So it's really similar to that one, but now it says Argentino, peso argentino. It's not peso ley, peso argentino. How many years do you think it took us to destroy this one?
Which year did it start? 83?
83, yeah.
Very
15?
15.
20,
How much?
20.
20 years?
5 years.
5 years? You're closer now?
Yeah.
2. Yeah, 2 years.
Wow. 2 years.
Exactly. That's 2 years. From 83 to 85, peso argentino. So 10,000 of those pesos leys that you have there became one of these. Okay? So you can,
And how much one bills could value? Could be the value?
The purchasing
it,
power.
it,
No, just the number, like
The number.
1 million or
Banknotes, yeah.
banknotes.
sorry, I don't understand.
What was the number, the maximum number
Ah,
on this
For
one
that one,
until
I'm not sure.
at this point?
But it wasn't as high as the
As
previous.
the previous?
Yeah, this is the only one that got to 1 million.
Ah, okay.
Yes. Because they took 4 zeros. From 10,000 of these became one of these. But then in 85, only 1,000 of these became the next one. This is by the time I was born, the Austral,
Those two.
right? Which means, sorry, this is not there. It means from the south, right? Australia. So this only lasted 7 years. By 89, we were already in hyperinflation again. Okay, and when this was born, it was more valuable than $1. 83 cents of these bought you $1, right? So pass it around, please. So the president that did this, he had to call elections in advance to leave office. He wanted to leave the government because it was a disaster. So another president came. At first he had hyperinflation, but then they came with this brilliant idea of doing sort of like a tether, like a USDT, right? Because they propose a peso convertible peso, which is like tether. In order to print one of these, you need $1 saved in the central bank, right? And they enacted a law, and the law said that on the day that the exchange rate between dollar and Australis reached 10,000, they would take all the 4 zeros and become this, right? 1. So remember, this went from 83 cents to $1 to 10,000 to $1 in 7 years, right? 10,000 Australis, and also this one. So this is the only period. This is the guy that had the idea. The only period where we had some sort of stability. It was my childhood, like for 10 years, until 2002, very early 2002. There was almost no inflation, like almost 0% inflation. All the prices didn't change, I remember, right? But this president, this is the Minister of Economics. The president lasted until 99. He had to leave office. The next president, he was like a Joe Biden. He was a really old man who got lost on stage. Yeah, exactly. And
Except the wife, maybe. That's safe.
yeah, and so he raised taxes, and the economy went into a recession really deep. And we knew that eventually we were hitting a crisis, because this system doesn't allow you to print money, right? You can only print it if you have it. If you have the dollars, you can print pesos. But you cannot freely print pesos. So the government had raised taxes, got into debt with the IMF and so on. But in 2001, the crisis was getting worse. And we saw on the news each day that the country risk, which is the rate Argentina overpays in interest, was getting higher and higher every day. So we knew eventually we were not going to be able to pay the interest. So not only the capital, but not the interest. So that became a crisis. This guy, he was called back into office as minister, and he proposed sort of like a CBDC experiment, because he announced, the journalist called it a corralito. It means little corral, where you put the animals. So on a Monday, they announced on the news that everybody was trapped inside of the banking system. You could not withdraw the money from the banking system. You were only allowed to withdraw $250 per week. So if you had a $60,000 or $100,000 in the bank, it was all inside the bank, or 100,000 pesos, which were the same value. So you can only withdraw like 1,000 per month. Everything else, like you had to pay through debit card, credit cards, checks, wire transfers, right? So we had a really big crisis, and we went away from the system. So nowadays we need 1,200 or so to buy a dollar, right? Up until last year, this was the highest bill. So it was like $1.50. So the most you could pay with Argentine pesos was like €1.50, right? So yeah. So once I did a math of how rich let's say your grandfather had to be, right? Let's say your grandfather was the richest Argentine that has ever lived, right? And the politicians in Argentina, they tell you you have to save in the national currency. If you save in a foreign currency, you are like a betrayer, exactly. Yeah? Vende patria. You sell the fatherland. It's the term. So let's say your grandfather, he had this million, billion, trillion, right? He had 10 trillion pesos in 1970. Then each government would call him and tell him, bring the old currency, I'm going to give you the new one. So he would have 100 billion of peso ley, then 10 million pesos argentinos, then 10,000 australes, and now just a peso, which in the 90s, this coin was $1. Now this coin is 10% of 1 penny. So it's like a little piece of that. So this is why Argentines get Bitcoin, right? Because it's a value destroying machine or extracting machine, right? All that you work will be vanished if you save it in the local currency. So the only difference with euro or dollar is the speed at which this is happening, but it's still happening, right? So, well, we had a really bad crisis in 2001 with looting, riots, people killed. The president, well, these were the protests that said banks are thieves, give us back our dollars, right? Or old pensioners, they were hitting the banks, and the banks had to purchase metallic curtains. Or people protesting, they said there's no justice, there's no work, there's no plan, there's no banks, there's no dollars or pesos. What we do have is thieves, right? And so the president, one day on a Thursday, he told us he would put like a curfew, so you would not be able to leave the house after 8 p.m. or something like this. The next day on a Friday, people rioted even more. And so everybody saw on TV, this is like the house of presidential government, like the White House. It's the pink house. And we saw the helicopter landing there, and he escaped through the roof, and he resigned, and we didn't know where he was going. And there was no vice president, right? The country was without a president, and yeah. So I'm gonna now go back a few years. This was the most typical kind of protest. We were hitting the pans, casserole, right? You call it casserole. So it was called cacerolazo, which meant that you would hit it on your balcony, and people around you would hear it, and so it would spread all around the city.
You know, it's illegal in France.
To do that?
Yes, because we did that against Macron, and then Macron said it was illegal to go in the street and make noise with the car.
How convenient.
3 days after, il n'a pas fait ça longtemps après la première.
Right. Yeah. No, this is not outlawed yet in Argentina. So I'm gonna fast forward a few years, from 2009 till 2014. Some people, we started doing this libertarian or liberal party, but it failed. So by 2014 we had to close it down. But around that time, Milei, the president, now the current president, became a libertarian. So it was too bad he didn't become before. But I'm going to show you some private conversations. This is a messenger on Facebook, right? So he sent me a friend request, and he sent me, thank you for accepting my friend request. Cheers, JM, on August of 2014. And I said cheers, right? By October, I realized he was going somewhere, so I said, Javier, how are you? I'm sending you a Bitcoin talk I gave. It's entertaining you. I think you're going to like it. A hug, right? And so he replied, oh, that's great. Would you send me the PPT PDF to his email? I really appreciate it. He said, my boss wants to invest 800M in Bitcoins. And
You
this,
wonder why.
yeah, and this is, I said, thousands or millions? M is for millions, haha. 800 green sticks. In Argentina, a green stick is $1 million, right? Excellent, I said. $800 million. I said, that's going to move the market. That was an impossible purchase. It was like 2 million coins. It's impossible to buy 10% of all the Bitcoins. So I said, that's a good data, but my boss is somewhat impulsive. Then I have to get together. My task on the next 5 years is going to be to evangelize on Bitcoin. Well, I can take you to give a conference if you like, or that you talk to the one that has the mess on top. But it will be good for somebody to prepare the terrain. That's why I asked you the presentation. So I never sent him the presentation. I thought he was totally crazy because, yeah, it's happened to me many times in life that when somebody comes with these big numbers, it's usually crazy people, right?
You were
So.
right. You were right.
So yeah, I never sent him that, and so yeah, I know how many minutes we still have left, but we can do some questions and also tell you, well, I did write this book about Argentina and Bitcoin, just to tell the story of Argentina. I realized that it's not much known here in Europe, and it's a good way to see, like, if the country or Europe in general is starting to do things that are like copying what Argentina has done. It's a very big wake-up call or sign, right? Like, most likely they learned about cacerolazos, but they should ban it. So yeah, do you have any questions you want to know about, or something from Bitcoin?
So I think my question is, even in your country, you only talk about how the money is worth less, but do people have an understanding of the mechanisms by which they actually get robbed through printing, or
Oh, yeah,
is it
yeah.
still?
Well, now it's somewhat different because Milei has done a lot of work from 2014 till now. But during the 2010s, let's say, right, or even before, what the media does, the government that was standing there, the Kirchneristas they were called, what they did, it was always to tell the people that the culprit, the blame was on the supermarket owner or the businessman, that they're raising the prices, they're evil, right, or greedy, or having extra profits. But it's interesting to see how people can forget, because very early, from 1992 till 2002, there was no inflation. So the businessmen during the 90s, they were not greedy,
Yeah.
right? They didn't raise prices. But you change a law, and now they get greedy, right? Or the same businessmen in Uruguay or Chile, they don't raise the prices, right?
Yeah, I think my question is, in France we have the same problem. People cannot make the link between inflation and printing. And I'm just trying to understand if in this country's mindset it happened or
Through
not.
periods, like in the 80s, perhaps before, we had this expression of saying like, giving it to the printing machine, no? Darle a la maquinita. That it meant that we're gonna print money and cause inflation. Then this generation from 2000 and 2010, they forgot this, right? And so Milei's job has been to go to the TV channels and to teach people about it. So now it's somewhat different. Like it's really hilarious. There is TV channels that are opposed to Milei, like trying to do interviews on the train stations, and they try to find somebody that looks like against Milei, right? And so they come to them and they say, hey, what do you think about inflation or whatever? And some people say, no, we have to close the central bank. It's like, it's really funny to hear like taxi drivers and say, no, we need to shut down the central bank. So yeah, that was all, thanks to him.
And I don't know if you, I'm sure you know, but they try in La Rioja to issue a local currency.
Yes. Oh yeah, I forgot about.
They are really desperate.
Yes, I forgot about.
So it's another way to try to fool people, and it's quite clever because they are also. So the province, they have been cut. They have no longer any funding, so they are broke, no.
Right.
And they haven't been able to issue bonds either. So now they try to issue that chacho and convince people to take it, and then promise to give 17% if they hold it until December, because it is supposed to be 1-1 against the dollar. So I
against the peso. Against the peso.
Yeah, against the peso. And I thought it was they're ready to do anything. So
yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that it also happened in 2001 in the crisis.
Yeah, you had the same attempt.
The provinces were doing their own monies. Yes. To pay what?
It seems like staking.
Yes, the shitcoin of the shitcoin.
So how much inflation you have today?
Well,
it's coming down, but the numbers were, so after 2002, immediately prices doubled. So I remember like a cheeseburger went from 1 to 2 in one day. But after that, slowly, like 10% per year, 20% per year, 30% per year, 40, 50, 60. So the previous government before Milei, they got the exchange rate at 60 pesos to a dollar. They impose constraints on your ability to purchase dollars legally. So everybody goes to a black market develops, and everybody goes through the black market.
It's
We-
blue dollar? No?
We call it blue dollar. And so there's a gap between official and black market or blue dollar. So if you are able to buy at the official rate and sell in the black market, and buy in the official rate and sell in the black market, and do it like this, you make 30%, 50% free money every day. Imagine, right? If you could increase your money 50% every day. So they put restrictions on who is able or allowed to get the official dollar. So by the end of the previous government, the official was like 400, from 60 to 400, and the black market went all the way to 1,200, right? So like 3 times more in the black market. So yeah, they went from 60 to 1,200 in 4 years in the previous government, before Milei. Now the dollar is around 1,200, so it's staying the black market, because this thing that I don't like so much is he's taking too long to remove these restrictions. So we still have like a official dollar at 1,000 and a black market at 1,200. So.
And the inflation, I think, is estimated at 50. It
Per
went
year.
down from almost 1,000 to 50%.
1,000 per year.
Yeah, this is the number Milei quotes, because during the last days of the previous government, the inflation had been accelerating.
Yeah.
So he does some projections, and he says, "Oh, if this continues, we will be in hyperinflation."
Your M1 is still exponential at the moment.
The money supply.
M1, so yeah. Your M1 in 2024 is still.
Right.
So what did Milei do right now? What is the economical state of Argentina right now? Is it better since?
I would say it's still terrible.
Sorry.
I would say it's still terrible, because to give you an idea, back in 2019, Argentina was still like a normal country, because an average salary was, let's say, like $1,000 a month. But on the day that Alberto Fernandez he won the primary elections, we got the news on a Sunday night, and I remember that news TV channels, they started telling us, they were checking the crypto dollar. They were checking the USDT against the peso, because it's the only one that is trading at 9 p.m. on a Sunday. And they saw that instead of 40, it went to 60. So on the Sunday night and Monday morning, the dollar went from 40 to 60 on one day. So by Monday morning, salaries were like 650 or around there. So you lost like a third of your salaries. Then he won the elections, and slowly the salaries started going like to, the minimum wage went like to 200 per month, and an average would be 250 or 300. So Argentine started earning like 10 euros per day average, right? So imagine trying to survive on that. And most likely, if Milei didn't win, it would continue to 150, 100, or even less, and you become Venezuela or you become Cuba, right? So now, I mean, I can see there are interviews that they do to people on the street, and they quote much higher salaries. Some salaries are like $600, $800. And I tell my friends in Argentina, wow, that's fascinating. Salaries in dollars have doubled in a year with Milei. But they reply, yeah, but the prices of things have more than doubled in dollars, right? Like I remember I went last year in November for a conference. And when I arrived on November, I could fill the gas tank like for $12 for a car. right? By March, the same filling the gas was like $36 or 35 in dollars, right? So for an Argentine that is making pesos, it's terrible. And yeah, Milei said we're gonna go through this, and I hope he makes it. So yeah, but at the end, Argentina should be a free country eventually. Yeah, so far it's not a free country, sadly. And he's always quoting. I have other attempts. This is my book, just in case you want it. I've had other attempts at trying to orange pill him in person, and you can talk. I've talked with him like 3 times about Bitcoin, and he can listen to you for 2 minutes, and then he will say, yes, it's private money, and I am all in for private monies. But that's it, right? So he doesn't know the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum, or Cardano, or Solana, whatever.
Yeah, that's the problem of all the government people. They don't understand. That's why we do it.
That's right. So also, if you want to follow us, we have this Twitter account for Bitcoineta. That's my Twitter account. And yeah. So thank you very much.
Thank you.